Welcome to Talking Down the Highway, a Beach Boys podcast presented by Strange Currencies Music. I'm Matt.
I'm Glenn.
I'm Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Hi.
Hi, Matt.
Glenn.
Hi, Glenn.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, Tim.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Matt.
It's your cue to say hi, Glenn.
Hi, Glenn.
All right.
Shut up,
Good
Glenn.
episode.
Shut up.
We'll catch you all next time.
All right. Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, to all of our loyal listeners, sorry we didn't get an episode out there last Friday.
We were a little busy.
I'm not sorry.
Oh, okay.
A little busy.
Asshole. Well, I am. Some of us are sorry, and some of us are.
I'm
apparently
sorry.
not.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So some
We
of
were-
us are
we were
sorry,
making-
and one of us is not.
We were making royalty-free music.
Yeah.
We were,
We had stuff.
we were creating stuff for the radio.
One of us was at yearbook camp.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
one
did
of
go
us
to
was at yearbook camp. One of us took a very short notice trip to Arizona.
American Southwest.
You know,
One time at yearbook
shout out
camp.
to my grandma. She's,
Shout out to Grandma.
Still kicking.
still kicking ass because that's
Great.
what she does.
Great.
Yeah. But yeah,
Shout out to the Snug.
yeah, we've really been hitting up the royalty free music. We did our annual show as our band, which we're not
We only
naming
play once
here
a
on
year.
the pod. Yeah, we play once a year, but we did a warm up show this year, so we did two in.
Yeah, one and a
Just
half.
a
Yeah.
public rehearsal, you
Right,
know,
public rehearsal, right.
at an undisclosed location.
Right.
But yeah, we have a fun story. So yesterday, which would have been Saturday, we were all gearing up, literally, gearing ourselves up for a
The
big
worst part
show.
of playing live music, is loading up all your gear, loading it into the venue, setting it all up, and then after the show, taking it all down.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the worst part
That's why you can't
of live music.
ever really go into a show without being sweaty.
Yeah, it
You
just
know?
stinks.
Yeah.
And that's what we had to do. We went, we loaded in, everything ready, and then all of a sudden, show canceled. And we had to load everything up again and take it out. It was
Why
brutal.
was the show canceled?
Well, I'd like to say
A
it was
burst
something clever.
pipe,
Yeah, it was a burst
and
pipe.
the
Either a burst pipe
building
or I think
flooded
it started
out.
raining
It was
like
heavy rain.
immediately.
It was a
heavy
thunderstorm.
rain.
and a lot of
Yeah.
lightning.
The I think the storm drain backed up the whole system, and so we were literally shit out of luck.
There was, I think some people were being a little dramatic. It wasn't like there was raw sewage pouring across the floor.
It smelled. It smelled.
It was half.
It was smelly.
I didn't get to see the carnage.
Yeah, conveniently
Yeah.
rolled in late.
Well, because
and-
the place is 4 minutes from my house,
Oh,
so
right.
I was just like,
So you
I'll
were,
be
of
there.
course, 15 minutes late.
Exactly, but I'm just like, it's going to take 4 minutes, whatever. But then you texted, oh, we're shit out of luck. I'm like, I'll be there in 4 minutes, and I was.
So Tim rolls up and he's like, "Is
Hey,
this
guys."
really being canceled?" We're all standing outside, with our gear loading back up into our vehicles. Yeah. Tim's like,
Shows
"What?
off.
I thought you were just fucking with me."
Sorry, fellas.
So anyway, we come up with an idea.
Really good idea.
A brilliant idea. Look, I'm going to take credit for the idea.
No, no. I
don't
immediately,
know the guy,
I
all right?
immediately get on my phone, start looking for other venues.
Oh, stop.
I'm like, certainly there's some local pub house
Stop
that we
Don't-
could just show
don't
up
even.
with our equipment.
So
I was
I
getting
know
ready
a
to go back to
guy-
my house and just not play a show. I was like,
Exactly.
hey, that's great. I'm going to go home.
No, I know a guy who about 6 months ago came into ownership of a venue. It's basically been booked out for the whole remainder of the calendar year. So I'll take credit for the idea to contact him. But our dear friend Tom Ono executed the
Executed to
idea
perfection.
to perfection because
Cold call.
he is such a charming.
He's a charmer.
charming man.
He is a charmer.
But also a charming man, Otis.
yeah.
Yes.
It almost feels like we should be doing heroes and villains, but let's just say that Tom and Otis are both heroes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that backed up system at the Snug was a bit of a villain, but it ended up giving us a nice, clean
Yeah.
venue, big venue. We had a
great.
decent turnout.
Yeah.
It was fun.
The venue, it's Twin Peaks themed. We,
yeah.
played in the Red Room.
Got to give him a plug. It's Hawthorne Hideaway.
Yeah. Hawthorne
we will give
Hideaway.
the name Hawthorne Hideaway for all
If
you
you're-
local Portlanders.
Yeah.
Great spot.
By some-
Otis is good people.
people. Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
people.
And so, Tom calls, and by some miracle, they don't have anything booked.
Yeah.
I think he's talking to the bartender initially, but then he says, "Oh, but I know Otis," and
Yeah.
it sounds like they put
And then
Otis on the phone.
hops on the phone.
And he's like,
Sure,
"Yeah,
come on out.
We name dropped
with,
because
with the caveat of my sound guy is not working tonight.
we're like we got several sound
We can do
guys
it.
between
We'll
3 bands.
figure it out.
What's a mixer? It's
Yeah.
easy."
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the most complicated part.
it was the
because
most
complicated.
it was a digital mixer. But
Yeah.
Joseph
Joseph
really
figured it out.
rose to the occasion.
All kinds of heroes.
Yeah,
Joseph,
all
Otis,
kinds of heroes, yeah.
Tom
And all
out.
of our friends who redirected themselves from one venue to another and showed up. And,
great.
Good
Yeah.
times. I wonder if the Beach Boys were ever, crapped out of a show. If they ever, had the
Mike was often around. So.
oh hey.
Yeah. But yeah, fun times for us this
Good times,
week.
yeah.
And, but that's
Didn't
that's kind of why y'all didn't get an episode on Friday.
Yeah.
We've just been busy this week, so
I forget, did the Maharishi open for them or did they open for him? Because I feel like they played and then ditched out and then let him do his thing for a couple times.
I don't remember the order. Maybe they mixed it up sometimes.
Yeah.
Y'all know Camper Van Beethoven, which eventually, David Lowery, formed Cracker after the fact.
right.
And I think still to this day, they continue to tour occasionally as is both bands. It's different personnel, but David
Yeah.
Lowery is, the main guy in both. So they'll play together, but oftentimes to decide who plays first, they will literally come on stage and flip a coin to decide which band plays first. Maybe that's how the Beach Boys and Maharishi did it. Like Maharishi comes out and he's like, got a beer in one hand and a quarter in the other, and he throws the coin up
Sup,
in the air.
dudes?
Yeah, it's like, oh damn, I'm closing out the show tonight. I wanted to cut out early, to hit up the strip clubs here in Des Moines, Iowa.
I'll be out back chain smoking.
Yeah. Flying around in my helicopter.
That's what he sounds like, I'm sure.
Yeah. Anyway, is there any particular reason why we're really dragging out our conversation?
That
intro?
storm and the rain yesterday was really nice. It felt like an autumn evening.
Okay. All right.
It did.
The
It
humidity
was
was high, but it was cool,
It was late summer.
Yeah.
It felt late summer to me as a native of a monsoon
There you go.
state. It had a late summer feel.
Yeah, it felt like fall to me. But it was kind of sticky, but like 62 degrees or something.
So we're saying maybe summer's gone, or is soon to be gone.
Hopefully. We'll see.
Okay. Well, let's take a break. We're going to come back and talk about, or unless you were building to something
I just
over
was
there,
like,
Tim.
let's just keep stretching it out.
Yeah, okay.
Nah, let's take a break.
We got a big topic.
We
to
got
cover.
a good
do.
topic. Come on.
All right. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, and this week, for episode 45, we are talking about what is, to date, and let's just say, not even to date, the final Beach Boys album. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of post album story that we'll talk about as well too here, and they're at a very advanced age, and this is 12 years ago. I don't expect that we're getting a new Beach Boys album. I mean, archival stuff, sure. That's they'll milk that for as long as they possibly can. Well beyond these guys are gone, but this is for everything that we could imagine. The last Beach Boys album.
Yeah.
I feel like we're just setting ourselves up. How many final tour announcements is there?
I
Certainly
wouldn't-
not. Yeah, Brian's
So 2012.
2012.
That's why God made the radio. Mm-hmm. They're going to tell us why God made the radio. I thought a person invented the radio.
Well, I mean, I guess if you believe, in God, you could say that he invented radio waves. I don't know. 'Cause don't they just come from space naturally too?
I guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But not
What
the
am I, a
physical
scientist?
The physical item that is a radio is not
okay.
certainly man-made unless
In defense of
Jesus
this whole premise,
had a radio.
in defense of this premise, I think it alludes to this idea that there is something spiritual about music. There's something heavenly, as it were, about these radio waves coming down from the skies to us, to give us some comfort, warmth. There's something mystical about that.
I can see that.
I think that's a noble concept. I mean,
Sure. I mean,
maybe
when
a
you
little
attach it
corny.
to a latter day Beach Boys album,
yeah.
like
A
when you
latter-day
talk about
album-
the iconography of the Harry Smith anthology of American folk music, where they have like the celestial monochord. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can totally understand what you're talking about there, but.
The
Auto
other-
tune nightmare that we're about to talk about. Maybe I don't know.
The other problem here is this is 2012. This is after we had this triumph of the Smile Sessions released to the public that had been hidden for so long.
Yeah, that was really good.
And yeah, that was really good.
I really like that.
I'm in
stuff.
support of that.
Like they had dropped a damn good album in 2011. I imagine 2012 they're still going to be coasting on that quality of Smile, right?
Well, I mean, but here's the thing though. In all seriousness, the Smile Sessions was that blankety blank to blank. There's a little bit of that, idea that this is why they've done what they've done all these many years, that there's something mystical. But I even had to go look it up. What was the number one musical consumption tool in 2012? Because it was not the radio, right? I mean, we're in like Spotify, Napster
iTunes.
downloads, or post Napster even.
Yeah, post Napster.
But yeah, I mean we're late iPod era.
Late
like
iPod.
most people have migrated to their phones as their device for
Right.
music.
So there's a little bit of an kind of a throwback here.
With the Beach Boys? Wait a minute.
Certainly
No,
not.
my Beach Boys.
They're certainly not dated. So that kind of tracks.
There's something in the wiki about the title of the album being based on like a tossed off thing that Brian said while in a car with somebody one time. Like they were hearing, I don't know if it was like a real radio station or something between stations or something like that, but I guess he made that comment and it stuck.
Yeah. Either way, I think it kind of typifies maybe some of the mentality here that this is a throwback. Wouldn't it be nice if we could go back?
I see what you did there.
Wouldn't it be nice if we were younger?
No pun intended
Then
on that
we
one.
would have to wait real long.
But okay, so the whole premise behind this is the band is getting back together.
Oh yeah, the 50th anniversary.
It's the 50th anniversary here, and we're like, hey, let's get these guys back together. Wouldn't it be nice to hear what it would be like if the Beach Boys could recapture that magical sound, those harmonies, and hey, we have computers now that can help us do that. Little auto tune, little nip tuck.
Just a little bit.
The boys are what, 70?
You won't notice
They're in their
it.
70s now.
I didn't notice the auto tune.
Yeah.
Well, the boys are old.
I only notice it when it goes, like
So-
yeah.
But my point being, they're in reunion mode. They're in
Right.
anniversary mode. We're looking back. Remember the radio?
And did they? So they bring back.
I like that old guy voice.
Back in my day.
Let's go get David Marks. Remember
Right.
him?
Yeah.
They get the whole band back together.
They
get
dig up David Marks.
Bruce and David. I forget though. Is the tour? Is that whole thing organized before the album, or is it vice versa? I don't remember.
I mean, they were performing by by springtime, and the album came out. I mean,
Well, I guess if they were on, I can look it up. But I
they
guess if they were
started
on
the tour April 24th.
Okay.
The album
I imagine both of those things
album
were
was released
probably.
in June.
Yeah, I imagine both of those things were happening in concert, so to speak.
Well, I mean, if they were touring though, they probably got the album wrapped up before they hit the road.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
It makes
yeah,
it makes a whole lot of sense. Let's get the band back together. Let's put an album out. Let's do a 50th anniversary tour. will support the album, so the tour and the album. This will make some money. This will, you know,
And it did. It was high times. You know, the album came out at number 3 on the charts or whatever chart, and it's like their highest debut ever, or second highest, or something like that. And then they sold out, you know, all their dates on their tour. They were kind of back on top there, for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time Brian is performing with them in like forever.
Yeah.
On a full tour, and I mean, in terms of the album itself, and we'll talk about the tour in its own segment here in a bit, but in terms of the album itself, some of this material, for context, goes back a little ways.
Yeah.
Brian had written some of these songs back around the time of his 1998 album, Imagination. So I imagine certainly there's some newer material, but a lot of these tracks definitely had their genesis moments, probably about as far back as 14 or 15 years before.
There's a handful of new ones, apparently.
Yeah.
But again, like the mentality of this album is kind of do it again. Like, let's do it again.
Well, they literally re-recorded "Do It Again" to coincide with
right.
with all this. Yeah.
Well, and as we go through these
there's
tracks,
a real subtle group.
really subtle. So, and as we go through the tracks, we'll kind of talk to some of the stuff that built into that.
Well, I have some thoughts on, the nostalgia factor, I guess, and like how Mike's nostalgia is different from Brian's. I really just think, like, I was listening to the album, and at one point I'm like, Brian, he can write a good song, but he is an old cornball at this point,
And he always has. I mean, he's always been pretty corny.
Cornball, but like I started to think that I think Mike and Brian at this point are both just old cornballs, but Mike doesn't have any talent.
Yeah.
Or tact.
He's stuck. He's stuck trying to replicate a formula. He has no talent or taste. He doesn't have any heart or like honesty or earnestness. Whereas Brian is all heart, and he can turn the cheesy old man stuff to something that's at least listenable.
Yeah.
But even when because even when he's singing about like the old days or whatever, it's just not as cringy. I don't know what it is about Mike.
Yeah.
It's just terrible.
Yeah.
When it comes out of him.
Absolutely.
But
I
they
mean,
both
everything
have-
the man does is cringy.
Right, but they both have kind of cheesy tendencies at this, stage in life, and like this whole album is like it's not that bad, but it definitely has that corny nostalgia vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nostalgia.
For a little bit more in terms of like the context, I had promised Glenn in one of our multiple car rides these last few days that I was going to talk a little bit about where Brian had been, somewhat recently as an artist. For backing up just a little bit, some context. Apparently, Mike's most recent album by that point was not Salute NASCAR, but something called Summertime Cruisin'. The unforgettable favorites of, and then it just like stops there. Oh wait, no, the unforgettable favorites of Mike Love and Bruce Johnston of the Beach Boys, and it's all like just re-recordings of, you guessed it, things like "Do It Again" and "California Girl." So like, all right, Mike is clearly not a I'm making music kind of guy, like new music or anything. Like that's not his jam at all. Brian, however, has been, engaged in a period of creativity for a while. We talked about, obviously, his solo debut. But after that, we had made an allusion to Orange Crate Art a couple of episodes back, and just talked about Imagination. Obviously, The Smile, re-recording that we covered in our last episode. Okay, he's got a couple of albums like on the run up to That's Why God Made the Radio that are not like the most creative things. Like he does an album where he reimagines some Gershwin material, and then he does like an album of Disney songs.
Right.
But his most recent original album prior to this was That Lucky Old Son that comes out in 2008.
I never listened to it.
That's a solid
It's
album.
good.
Okay.
It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's look. If we're rating it on our scale, I'd give it a decent owl.
Yeah.
But for a guy that's like 70 years old or whatever at that point,
Right.
and it's a nice little.
It is.
It's-
He tries really hard to make it like this thematic thing, and there's like some spoken word things to try and cohesively tease in, which I could do without. Like I made a playlist on my Apple Music of just the music without the spoken word, just so I can listen to it.
Okay.
And the songs speak for themselves; they're great. But it's almost like Brian didn't have a trusted or somebody whispering in his ear, helping him along, saying, "You don't need that." Like,
Well, I mean, everyone's going to be a yes man.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Brian.
he did have, Van Dyke Parks was around a bit. Like, I think Van Dyke actually wrote a lot of those the narration pieces, basically like
they
his
just
big
weren't
contribution.
executed very well. They just sounded
I
pretty.
mean, it was more just like his delivery just comes off as a little bit awkward. But that album is pretty solid.
Yeah, the songs as a whole are.
Yeah,
good.
and he was playing with a great band at that point. It was the same group largely that had recorded Smile a few years before. Darian is still his musical secretary, and he still has these guys like Jeffrey Foskett and Probin Gregory, who are helping to do a lot of like the good backing vocals, and it's a good record. I mean, it's super super cheesy, but it's that cheesiness that you just kind of have always expected from Brian.
Right.
So he's not
In small
exactly in
doses,
this
right.
like huge lull or anything as
Well,
an artist. His most recent album is pretty decent. It's solid.
And I'll also say, like, and I've dropped, Andy Paley as well. He's done some stuff with him, and like we'll see a little bit of that, I think, as we go forward too. But you get a sense that Brian still is Brian. He's there. And this album, though, Brian's listed as the producer, but Mike Love is the executive producer.
And that's just the token title they give to people who have no creative input, right?
Well,
But there's
usually in movies, it's like the person who puts up the money.
right,
Exactly.
and so I think that's fitting because I think that's what this project is. That they kind of need to get Mike on board because he's litigious and he is dug his heels into you can't have Beach Boys without Mike Love.
We'll give you an executive producer.
We'll give you an executive producer credit, but as a result, this album does feel a little bit fractured.
Well, and he's working with Joe Thomas, who produced his solo album, Brian's solo album, but he's credited as like recorded by
like an engineer.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And there's like he has a comment in there where he says like, I picked out the microphones and did all that shit, but Brian really produced it as far as the arrangements
Right,
and the
right,
vocals and all
right.
the stuff that Brian does. So.
Yeah.
But you get a sense that there are Brian pieces in this album, and then there are some Mike pieces.
Well, there's
in
one.
this album.
There's one Mike piece.
Well,
like purely Mike.
Purely Mike, but
Yeah.
it feels like Mike's hand is still more on some of this, and
He's got a lot of co-writing credits.
right,
Yeah.
a lot of co-writing credits on these. That one we'll talk about Daybreak Over the Ocean, which I didn't
We'll get there.
realize-
We'll get there.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
we'll talk
I
about
do
that.
have a little context thing as far as after the album was released, which is funny because it was like a successful album, but apparently, this is a quote from Wikipedia, the band appeared on various television shows throughout the tour, performing the song, the title track, I assume, including an hour-long performance and interview segment on the shopping channel QVC, in which close to 20,000 copies of the album were sold.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like the
QVC is a force.
I mean, they had something to do with that shitty album, right? They were trying to give it away in a bundle. It was that Home Shopping Network. It was one of those.
It was one of those. Yeah. The Summer in Paradise.
Summer
just
in
came
Paradise.
As
But this is like
handout.
20,000 copies purely through QFC or
So
QVC.
that
That's
thing
pretty
was
cool.
that thing was relatively well marketed or promoted via like social. It must have been via social media
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I distinctly remember watching that QVC thing. I never have watched sat there and watched QVC, but I watched that just out of like morbid curiosity because it was like Beach Boys are gonna be performing
And it came with a best of, like a unavailable anywhere else best of kind of thing.
So I looked it up today, just out of curiosity, like on YouTube to see. And the performances, they're what you would expect.
Sure.
There's like an audience of a couple hundred people there, and they're just sort of like really, I don't want to say weird, mean things about the audience that you would expect to see in a QVC in 2012 or whatever. But then, just happily clapping. And
I gotta look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, but I didn't find any of like the interview footage.
Oh, okay.
I remember it being really kind of stilted and
Sure.
awkward, and they at the very end they had turned to Brian and they're like try to ask him a question and like apropos of nothing, he just said good vibrations is our masterpiece or something like that, and it was like had nothing to do with the question that they had asked of him. Like that's all I really kind of remembered. But anyway, yes, I was actually sitting there watching an hour
That's
of QVC.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's great. My one other comment before we go track by track is completely unrelated to anything, but you mentioned Jeff Foskett. Mm-hmm. I finally realized who I think he looks like, and he looks like the actor Bill Camp, who specifically Bill Camp in The Outsider, which is a HBO series based on a Stephen King book, but Bill Camp plays Murray Wilson in the film Love and Mercy.
Oh,
so
okay.
That was a weird little connection.
Interesting. All right. Well,
And
we
he
might have
looks
to talk
like-
about that film at some point.
See, I don't know what Bill Camp or
Jeff Foskett.
Foskett look like. I'm Googling them.
Yeah.
But I did note, okay, yeah, that is Murray from Love and Mercy, Murray.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We can talk, yeah.
Well,
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Let's take a break, and we're going to come back and talk about the songs on this here album.
All right, it's time.
Isn't it time?
Are we listening to the CD or the vinyl? Did we decide?
See the compact
Do we
disc.
put the
We're
compact disc
listening.
in the player or the Walkman, as it were, or are we putting the vinyl,
don't
the
put-
wax on the?
You have said so many things wrong in this last 15 seconds,
Wow,
Glenn.
tell
First
me.
off, you don't put a CD in a Walkman. You put a CD in a Discman. You put a
Discman,
cassette in a
excuse me.
Walkman. You don't put a vinyl on anything.
Wow.
You put a record onto a
Okay.
turntable.
Thank you, Matthew.
Give me a break.
So
Yes, what Glenn is getting at
I put a
here,
CD
and-
in a Walkman once. It didn't go well.
Yeah, it's like when Austin Powers tried to put a CD on a turntable, right? What Glenn is awkwardly referring to here is that there is a different track order based on whether you're listening to this on CD / just streaming, or if you're listening to it on LP. I have it on LP. I had never listened to the vinyl
well, good
version
for
of it
you, Mister
until today.
Vinyl Pants.
Like,
Vinyl
my
pants.
pants are made out of denim, Glenn, so shut up. Anyway, different track order. We are going to go through this thing as quickly as possible in the CD order.
Yeah, because the there's been allusions to the sunny side and the dark side of this
Yeah.
album, and that the idea that the first bit, it does kind of, there is some of that.
So, but is that in the
Bright.
vinyl version, or I guess it would be, right? If you're talking
There's not
sides,
that,
but
yeah. It's mostly just that weird middle that gets kind of muddled up on the difference of the vinyl track listing. So yeah, it's
Either way, you hit play and Our Prayer comes on.
no,
No,
that was last week.
that was last week. Okay, sorry. Think About the Days comes on,
I like it.
which is Our Prayer.
It's
Not quite.
Yeah, I mean,
But I mean, it's them trying to,
Got piano and like a French horn.
yeah.
it's not totally a cappella.
It's not totally a cappella, but it kind of
has-
serves the same, a similar purpose.
Well,
It's
And
a
it-
set piece.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So here, because Our Prayer sounds like Genesis or something like that. This sounds like it's called Think About the Days. This somehow has nostalgia vibes without any words, if that makes sense. It's like melancholy, looking back at your life kind of stuff. That's how I take it. I think it's a good start. It's
That's
a
what
really
I'm saying.
solid thing.
That's what I'm saying. Is if the Smile Sessions was Our Prayer, Genesis, as it were, as you put it, which I like.
When
that.
you said that at first, I thought you were talking about like the prog rock,
like-
Peter
yeah.
Gabriel era Genesis. I was
No, I
like,
was
No,
talking
like
about
the
Sonic the
beginning, yeah.
Hedgehog.
like
Yeah.
acapella.
I was talking about Sonic the Hedgehog, that kind of Michael Jackson
right,
kind
right.
of thing.
Sega
yeah.
Genesis, yeah. But either way, this is 70-year-old men doing this kind of vocal call, and it's just the
with a
first
little
thing
bit
that,
of help from their friends,
with a little bit of
auto-tune.
help from their friends, and that's what sticks out to me is that this is where it kind of hits you. Man, they are really old, and wow, this is synthetic.
I don't know. I didn't pick up on any of that.
If you know what to listen for in listening for auto-tune, you can hear it.
I think I do, but it just maybe didn't stand out to me. I didn't listen to this with headphones, so I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't either, but there is a... Yeah, I don't know.
And I'm not turning my nose up at that or
No,
anything.
I mean,
I'm just
we-
I'm just making that observation that it is. I see what they're doing. They're kind of maybe if we're bookending, what we began back in the '60s with Smile Sessions or whatever. Here we are. We're going back and with that melancholy tie to it, it's kind of establishing or setting up this piece.
Well, yeah, and I think I'm kind of leaning into how much I like this beginning because I think it is kind of a harsh transition going into track 2.
yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get there in just a second. But yeah, I'm with Tim in that I don't see it as so much like a Smile connection. Like, I don't think that's what they were trying to go for. I think they're just like reminding people, like, we were primarily off the bat, we were a vocal group. We started as, brothers and a dipshit cousin harmonizing in our garage. And that's where we're going to open this album. And if it's an album about sentimentality and nostalgia, like, this is a decent sentimental opener.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's fine. And then it goes into this very crisp single.
Yep.
And because like that track 1 is, I would call it, I guess, tasteful, in a word. And then, I mean, this album as a whole is more tasteful than, their 80s and 90s stuff, but this still has like tinges of that. Like, That's Why God Made the Radio, track 2, title track. It's catchy. It's a little cheesy, but it's better than the old stuff. And this is where I said Brian's just sort of an old cornball.
It is a little cheesy. It is a little corny, but I like it.
Yeah,
I think
fine.
it's. I think it sets the tone for what it's not really apologetic. I don't think it's trying too hard.
Right.
I think it's being genuine. It's like, yeah, you know what? This is we have all the feels when we talk about our history and music and where we've come from and what music's done to us. There's something mystical, magical, spiritual about that.
Well, yeah.
And haven't you ever done that? Haven't you ever like been riding down the highway and you have the radio waves come in and you have that moment? Like, that's the feeling they're trying to kind of capture here.
Well, and when you said it doesn't try too hard, I think that kind of goes back to what I was thinking about the differences between Mike and Brian. Is Mike's stuff tries so hard,
Yeah.
and Brian's, his influence is a little bit more subtle and like you can tell what he's going for, but he's not like hitting you over the head with it necessarily.
Yeah, it feels a little
but then
more
there are those
authentic.
Mike elements, still in there, but they're just not as glaring, I think. Yeah.
It's a serviceable single.
Yeah.
It's cheesy, but again, what do we expect?
Right.
From when these guys were young, they were cheesy. So, of course, when they're in their 70s, they are going to be as well, too. So, cut them a little bit of slack, I guess, on that. The auto-tune is super, super apparent here.
I gotta listen again, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I don't want to be like one of the, I just said, if you know what to listen for, but it is kind of one of those things where you can hear the aid, I guess, if you are familiar with it as a tool, kind of, I guess.
Or maybe if you're looking for it, it's more obvious. Because I didn't go into this like necessarily. I should have, because it's got that Joe Thomas guy involved. But I didn't necessarily go into it trying to listen for the auto tune. So I guess I just didn't catch it.
But again,
there's
we're
just
also
a kind of a synthetic, like, this just doesn't
too clean,
Yeah, it just
too
doesn't
perfect.
feel real.
too
There's
crystalline. Yeah.
there's like weird kind of like movements between notes. It's a really
Okay,
hard thing to
okay.
kind of like quantify. And again, I think for most people who hear it, they're like, yeah, well, whatever. They sound great. Well, of course they sound great. They're getting help
again-
from a little magic box.
And again, we are listening critically, like trying to put our finger on what is it that doesn't like do it for us the way that maybe Pet Sounds or the Smile Sessions did. There's something about it, and we're really fine tooth combing. Yeah, we're trying to pin that down. And so, like, yeah, if you throw this on and squint a little bit, great, enjoy it. But we're listening really critically, and we are kind of being turds about, like, we're splitting hairs here. And
I'm going to be completely honest. I don't want to hear their voices without auto-tune. Like, it would sound miserable.
Right,
like,
probably, right.
I have heard, look, y'all know I don't like Mike Love, all right? It's the, I don't know, I've kept that pretty tight-lipped here.
Yeah.
There's a video online, we could devote an entire episode to this, is like COVID Anthem, right? And we've watched this together, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And there's like the non-auto-tune treated version of it. And it's painful. Like this guy who does not like Mike Love, like I feel sorry and bad for the guy having to listen to that in a way. We don't want to hear what these guys' voices would have really sounded like without the aid of this tool.
Yeah.
At this point. So I'm just saying, there's just sort of a, like, I don't know. It's a tough end, I suppose, for a band that is one of the great vocal bands of all time. Whether it's the Beach Boys or, the Temptations or whoever it would have been, to just like, oh, here they are in this like very deteriorated state. There's just sort of like a sadness, I guess, to that. But
I guess my question is like the autotune it's just Mike and Brian essentially, right?
Well, no,
like,
I mean Al and Bruce and
they're all
there.
Those are there too, yeah. But there's a lot of also like Darian and Jeff Foskett and like there's other people singing too who can actually sing.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, isn't it time we move on?
David only sings on one. Isn't It Time is the name of the next song.
Track 3.
I have similar notes about the nostalgia stuff.
Yeah.
Mike's dumb shit, but Brian is sort of tempering it, and it's okay. I don't remember what it sounds like.
Same thing. It's. I don't think it has that single That's Why God Made the Radio has, but it's fine. It's decent. It has the same kind of sentimentality, and even like the same, premise. After it's all been said, the music's spinning in our head. We can't forget the feeling, the magic of the summer.
Yeah, same
It's
stuff.
the same, it's that same little corniness. I don't mind it. I don't mind it that much. It's not as offensive as some of the other stuff on here, but
it's catchy enough, and it actually. You said you can't picture it in your head right now. It's one of the few that I can remember.
Okay.
It has kind of like it's got a catchy hook.
Okay.
It's memorable enough.
yeah, I like it well enough.
Yep. Fine. All right, let's move on.
Next one is called Spring Vacation, which is weird.
This is the one that's just...
Have they ever sung about spring before?
No, but they're talking about summer weather, and they're talking about good vibrations.
Yeah, the summer
again.
weather is in there.
Yeah.
It's spring vacation.
Just give me a break. Yeah, I was Glenn and I were listening to this on route to the first venue last night, and I was like, "You've already typecast yourself. Just stick with, just call it summer vacation.
Yeah,
come on.
Pretty hokey is my note.
You're not fooling anybody.
It's hokey. Like, I mean, I can remember the melody now. Good vibrate. Let's, it's like good vibration, summer weather.
Yeah, I hate it. Hate it.
Yeah, it's just corny.
Yeah.
Mike Love, like, has nothing to say.
Yeah. My note is this sucks, and then I found a quote. It was probably on the wiki because again, according to our critics, that's all we use. That alluded to the fact that Mike Love wrote the lyrics in 5 minutes, and my note is sounds like 3 minutes. But, yeah.
This is the one. Okay, yeah.
Hey, what's it to ya? Hallelujah.
Oh, if we're talking about weird lyrics, I love Brian's pronunciation of antennae or antennae.
Antennae, I think, because it rhymes with an I. I forget what the line is, but yeah.
So I'm curious. I was hard pressed to find the worst song on this album, but Spring Vacation was the first one that I.
It's a contender. It's a contender. Yeah,
right. This is in my short list of worst song on the album.
Well, I think we got another contender coming up.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the private life of Bill and Sue. Since we talked last, Matt, I think I've changed my position.
Okay.
This is definitely a contender for one of the worst songs on the album.
Good.
But I don't think it is the worst song because there are some redeeming qualities to it.
Did you look at the lyric? I feel like it tells a story
It
or
does.
something.
So
something redeemable, I guess.
So here we talked about this in the car a little bit. So let's bring you in on this conversation.
Yeah.
Here's how I imagine it went down. Brian sitting around musing about the things Brian muses about, the things that he finds interesting. And so Brian's like, hey, what's with reality TV these days?
Oh.
And he's just kind of like, I don't get it. Why are we watching somebody sit around do nothing
that what
all
it's
the
about?
time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
it's like a treatise on reality, or trying to make a commentary on it.
Right.
But at different points of the Beach Boys' career, someone like Tony Asher would come along and would say, oh, that's interesting, Brian, but what if we think about it in these terms? Or like somebody like Van Dyke Parks would come along and say, oh, that's interesting, Brian, but what if we talk about it in a cosmic, way?
Right.
Whereas, like, there are times in the Beach Boys' history where there isn't someone like that, and so we get Johnny Carson. Or,
Which is great. He's a
Right.
real live wire.
He is a real live
He's
wire.
such a natural guy.
He is.
We get
least I think
Brian's
he is.
unfiltered, unfettered musings, and I think that's what we get again here.
Yeah.
Is the private life of Bill and Sue is what we get when we don't have like somebody kind of helping him hone and sharpen some of these abstract ideas.
My first note is, what is this song? And my second note is, it's a Jimmy Buffett song.
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly. Musically, it sounds like it could be Jimmy Buffett. And after all of Glenn's talking about like the whole reality TV thing, we had this conversation yesterday, and I said I was going to reuse this quote, but I told Glenn, I said the only thing less interesting than reality TV is conversations about reality TV. Yeah. So I hate this song. Mm-hmm. Yep. Hate it.
But again, it's Brian. It's Brian. There's no Mike
maybe.
Love. There's no Mike Love writing credit on here.
For me, it's like not all out hate. It's just kind of like what the hell?
Yeah.
Right.
This is kind of dumb.
Again, it gives a little bit more.
All right, moving on.
Yeah.
We're getting a little long already here.
Okay.
Shelter.
It's funny. My first note says fine, but not really memorable. But then my second note is the chorus is nice. So.
Yeah. There's like a really awkward pre-chorus where like he's like
Okay.
saying something really fast. I can't remember what it's like, whatever. But then it goes into this chorus that is kind of soaring and nice.
Yeah,
It actually, for
yeah.
whatever reason, reminded me of a Ben Folds
okay.
chorus, and I don't know if there was a specific song.
Well,
but-
there's like tack piano in there that.
Well, it
kinda
was
gives
more just
some
like
of that.
the for whatever reason. Like I was like, oh, that reminds me of Ben Folds. But anyway,
Yep.
yeah. Okay. It's a nice little melody.
Yeah.
Okay, now the crown jewel of the album.
The crown-
Hold on, actually,
okay.
I think it's time. We're gonna bisect here.
Okay.
Because we're gonna just go through the whole album. I think it's time we take a minute to break and have an episode of Sound and Vision. All right, Sound and Vision. We're going to discuss all things aesthetic using scale provided to us by David Bowie. If we really like something, Glenn McCullough.
Low.
That's right, Dave Bowie's masterpiece. Tim, if we don't like something, call it
No.
Never Let Me Down, which David Bowie definitely let us down. And if we're like, whatever, let's dance. Dave Bowie's okayest album. All right, that's why God made the radio.
There's potential. I like the artwork on it. If it wasn't the
logo.
Mike Love
Yeah,
Beach
bald
Boys,
head, double
bald
bald
Beach
head.
I kind
Boys.
of like the colors and like
Yeah, the colors and those like kind of almost wavy, the
like
wave.
waves and scales and clouds kind of all in one.
Yeah,
you know?
mountains and trees.
Yeah.
It's
The way the colors
it's clever.
overlap, yeah.
I could do without the like whatever Minion Pro bold or whatever. Like it feels like it's Microsoft Word default font.
Oh, for the
That's why
title
God
itself?
made the radio.
Yeah.
If they could have done something with the typography in the top half, but whatever. Let's
It's the
dance.
definition of a let's dance.
Yeah, let's dance. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right, good episode.
Solid episode.
All right, let's move on to the second half of this album then. Track
The crown
7.
jewel.
The Crown Jewel.
I want to read this quote about Daybreak Over the Ocean, written and performed by Mike Love.
Bluebirds over the ocean.
Bluebirds over the
Bluebirds over the
mountain
mountain.
much?
This is a direct quote, and it's funny from Wikipedia. I don't know who wrote. Somebody snuck
Oh, I
this in
think
there.
I saw this too.
So quote, the song Daybreak Over the Ocean was originally recorded in 1978 by Mike Love for his first as yet unreleased solo album, First Love.
First love.
Parenthesis, And also re-recorded for his equally unreleased solo album of a few years ago, Mike Love Not War, a.k.a. Unleash the Love. And then, it goes on a little bit. And
citation
then it says
needed.
citation
Damn it!
needed.
Oh, I want that to be true so badly.
I just like the phrasing of his equally unreleased
Equally
solo album.
unreleased.
I wish they would have referred to it as equally unreleasable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those songs,
First
Mike
Love,
Love Not War.
Unleash the Love.
All right, let's get to it. The song's fucking terrible.
Yeah,
It's
sucks.
awful.
Sucks. Burn it.
It has the same exact pattern as Bluebirds Over the Mountain. I was telling Glenn, whoever the songwriter was for Bluebirds Over the Mountain, because it wasn't a Beach Boys song, should have just sued Mike Love for it.
That'd be funny.
Been great,
Yeah.
but the song is trash.
My favorite part of that conversation was the mental picture of Mike Love bringing Vanilla Ice into the courtroom to try and convince the judge that it was different. Like Bluebirds over the. You remember Vanilla Ice? Like, no,
Yeah, I
mine
do.
is dun 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 dun.
I think that was on Behind the Music.
One,
yeah.
that one is Bring My Baby to Me. This one's Bring My Baby back to me, or whatever stupid thing it does. Yeah.
Bluebird.
So then he gets sued by Chili's for ripping up
And whoever wrote
classic,
the actual song that borrowed from. Anyway, crap.
It's bad.
Crap song.
And
Terrible.
again, it's Mike Love's trope. Oceans.
bad song, bad
Bullshit
person.
song.
Move on.
But again, so now Daybreak Over the Ocean or Spring Vacation, but we have another contender.
We do.
Track 8, Beaches in Mind.
Yeah,
Ugh.
bitches and
Yeah.
Beaches.
My note was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
And it's not memorable, and I don't care.
It has the lowest rating on Rate Your Music
Oh,
of the whole
there you
album,
go.
2.5, which I think is way generous.
Yeah.
My only note is I really hate this. It's stupid.
Yeah, it's bad. See, this one doesn't.
I don't
This
remember
one is
anything
not as memorable to me,
Yeah.
so it's not quite as offensive to me.
Yeah,
So
I would kind of agree there.
I think I'm going to say Daybreak Over the Ocean is the worst song.
Yeah, why
Yeah,
not?
definitely.
That's the most Mike
sure.
of them all. so
It's
sure.
clearly Mike's song. Didn't Mike record it in 78?
Sure.
I
Like
think-
originally, not this version.
Right.
Yeah,
no,
is-
originally,
Did you
he
remember my
recorded it.
quote?
Right. No, that's but,
that
but
was 1978. yeah.
78,
yeah.
right. But my point being is like, hey, Brian's contributing some
Right.
new songs to this album.
I
Mike,
got
what have
one
you
in the
got?
vault.
And Mike's
Yeah.
like, not only can he not like produce anything, he recycles something that he did years before he ripped off someone else. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. All right.
So-
keep moving. Keep
Now-
moving.
The next
Track
one's
9.
Strange World. Apparently, this is a 4-song suite to close out the album, but I don't hear this one as part of the suite
Agreed.
personally. Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
But
I
I
read the
like
same
it.
thing. It's
I
fine.
like it. No, I like
My
it.
note is that it's getting better. It's not
getting
that
better.
song. It's not
getting
that
better.
song literally, but I'm like, okay, this is more philosophical than nostalgic. He's talking
exactly.
about larger themes.
I mean, we do have the Santa
Not
Monica
talking about the
Pier
beach.
in it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there is, but it's a strange world. It just feels like there's a little bit more, philosophy.
Did we
in
say
it.
Strange World is the name of the song? Strange World is the name of the song.
Yeah, there is a county fair line and a bicycle
yeah.
bell
Anything about
in
root
it.
beer? There's no root beer.
Driving cars to the county fair.
Well, and that's
But-
why I think it's considered part of the suite, is because these last 4 are about like California driving up the highway and stuff like that.
And again, that's part of the narrative of the suite. And I will say this one is much more orchestral and like it's more thoughtful and composed. Whereas the other ones are just like yacht rock, soft rock songs. Now the suite. These last 3 songs, this is what's worth
yeah.
while. Like I think this last trilogy or suite, whatever you call it, from there to back again, starts it off.
And this is Al singing lead, and I would believe that there's probably auto-tune on this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I like
not
this
bad.
one a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's great, but it's not bad.
From
But,
here to
but
back
it's
again.
better than anything that had come in quite a while in this record.
And this is one of the few brand new songs written for this album. But from here to back again is kind of awkward phrasing. But anyway, I like it. It's good. I feel like it sets the tone for what comes next, which is Pacific Coast Highway.
Emo Brian.
Emo Brian.
I like it. The
but good.
percussion
I like it a
is
lot.
back.
I like
There's
the
that.
sort of
yeah.
those piano notes that are kind of hit really like bong, kind of loud. I like that, and that goes into "Summer's Gone," which was co-written by John Bon Jovi.
Yeah, I have to ignore that part.
Yeah.
Everything else that
I
I'm going
don't
to say
believe
about
it.
the song,
I don't believe it.
I'm going to pretend that I didn't know that I'd never heard about that, because here's my exact as I wrote it down. Holy shit, this is ... good, like legitimately excellent,
Yep.
nuanced, subtle, age appropriate,
Yeah.
lovely arrangement. The oboe melody
gonna say,
is
some oboe in there.
is great,
Yeah.
and somehow the most bizarrely incomprehensible catalog in the history of popular music ends with a genuine gem after decades of trash leading up to it. And we should have absolutely no reason to be surprised by that, because of course it does.
Of course it does.
This song is fucking great.
It is.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It is.
This is the kind of reflection and nostalgia kind of stuff that would be nice to have heard on the rest of the album. Like, really more existential.
But Brian
Yeah.
can't do it all himself.
Yeah, apparently you need John Bon Jovi to do
Well.
something.
Well, this is another one that was, originally conceived in the past or
Yeah,
whatever
it
in
is.
pieces. So
Yeah, or
who knows what contribution Bon Jovi had?
Either Brian
he probably wrote that oboe melody. Yeah.
Either Brian couldn't have done it all himself, or they didn't let him, and they had to throw some bones to Mike Love. So that's why we get Daybreak Over the Ocean.
Yeah, John Bon.
But the idea, like, I don't know, you've alluded to this before, Matt. It would have been nice if we could have ended the Beach Boys' career with Surf's Up. Would have been a nice bookend to it. I think Summer's Gone does a similar thing. It kind of is that.
Well, and it was written with that as in its intention.
Yeah,
like,
right.
if you dig into the wikis, it's like, yeah, this was written to be the last song on the last Beach Boys album.
Which
and
is
then
funny
they were
because,
like,
yeah.
we actually wanted to maybe do another one, and then we're going to talk here in a minute. Here's another thing, though, and again, like, you guys maybe want to take a little bit more of a listen again to that Lucky Old Son album, because the whole Sweet thing, he kind of is doing a lot of that stuff on that album, in like a similar Sweet at the end of that album as well too.
Yep.
And there's a lot of kind of overlap and similarities there, just in terms of the sound and in terms of the lyrics, like going up the Pacific coast and had this dream of singing with my brothers in harmony. There's this very, like, again, kind of existential and thoughtfulness, and like just reflecting on, this is my life, and it's kind of reaching its last stage here. But yeah, this is a lovely song. It's great.
Yeah.
And that's the takeaway that I would give you if this closing suite kind of tickles your interest. I would challenge you to go listen to that Lucky Old Son and have the skipper button ready if the narrations really bother you too much. But yeah, or just search up my Apple Music and listen to the playlist I made with the solo album minus the narrative tracks.
As for this album, I do think if you take the 4-song suite and then just tack on that track 1 to it, it's kind of like a nice little EP.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Get rid of all the other crap. And it's like, oh, these are the halfway decent to very good songs.
Yeah. Well, let's rate this album here quickly, because we are going to take a break and come back and talk about something else. But let's rate this album. What are you guys thinking?
Let me look at my scale here. I think it needs to be. Okay, hold on. I gotta pull up my.
I'll give it an Al.
Yeah, I think it needs to. I think it needs to be either a Bruce. It's better than a David Marks. I don't want to give it a Bruce Johnston just because I feel like it's better than Bruce.
I don't know. I'm thinking in terms of just mathematically, if there's 5 decent songs, and what would that be, 7? Whatever songs?
I might even call 6 because I think That's Why God Made the Radio is fine.
It might be lower than an Al if I think of it mathematically.
I think it might be. I think it might be an Al. I think it might be a very, very soft Al.
Yeah, because I think we both
like
kind of talked about how it doesn't. like it doesn't make me angry. the
Yeah,
album,
right.
When I listen to it, like some of the other more
Like-
recent stuff.
like
does.
You
It's
guys
like
are
a-
forgetting how bad that middle stretch of songs is.
Okay, so
Maybe.
there is, but again, if you can squint a little bit and ignore the auto tuning and ignore the the corn factor.
No, I'm not even holding the auto tune against it.
I'm-
Just
I'm
that middle stretch
imagining-
of songs sucks.
See, I'm imagining that there's a little bit of corniness that Al gets stuck in his teeth, but like he can floss that out. He's been to dental school. He could clean that up.
Jeez.
I'm gonna drop down to a Bruce just to get away from whatever weird Al analogy you're
That was
making.
enough. When I rated this for Rate Your Music and for our catalog crawl, it was a strong David Marks, actually.
Oh,
Which I also think is a little appropriate because it's like he's back in the fold for the first time in 50 years or whatever.
it's better than a 2.5.
It was a really strong David Marks. I'd give it a weak Bruce. Like Bruce if he had a small head, but we know that he doesn't.
like a 3.0.
A less powerful.
Yeah,
head.
like a 3.0 exactly. Like a 6.0 on a 10-point scale.
See, I'd give it like a 3.3 or a 3.2.
Okay. Well,
3.3.
that's still a Bruce.
I think it's a soft Al.
No, you got to get to 3.5 to be an Al. All right. We're just splitting hairs here.
We're splitting hairs.
It's fine. Look, the ending helps it immensely. If that last song wasn't on there, this would be easily a David Marks. But, Yeah.
Yep.
Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we're going to now have to push over an hour, I think. So, great. We've
don't
now
have
done it
to.
for,
We can just
masterpieces.
do it.
No, because you wouldn't shut up. And you kept going on and on and on about stuff, and I don't have 3 hours to edit this thing down later this week. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk about the tour that followed this album.
Hi, everyone. We're talking 50th anniversary Beach Boys reunion.
They made an album. They toured it. It was a tour.
See you next week.
See you next week.
No, so I think what we're really talking about is the sort of quote unquote breakup slash
there's drama.
firing
There
of
is some
Brian
drama
Wilson
we have
by
to
Drake
There's all
Love.
kinds of other stuff, though. So first off, this 50th reunion tour, it's mostly Brian's band. Basically, what they have essentially done is they've taken this great band that
Yeah.
Brian had been playing with now for several years, the band that had done Pet Sounds, the band that had resurrected Smile, and they're like, all right, well, this is going to be the Beach Boys now. They're just, throwing the other,
Mike and Bruce.
Mike, Bruce, Al, and David into that. And they're like, all right, well, this is the Beach Boys. We're going to go out for a 50th anniversary tour. And they're like selling out shows and getting largely strong reviews, with a caveat of you're watching 75-year-old dudes, but there's some stuff in here that's fascinating. Apparently, so I looked at all of the songs that they played.
It's a long list. Yeah.
It's a very long list, and at the end of it includes "Rain" by the Beatles.
Okay.
Like, I gotta find a video of this of them performing "Rain" by the Beatles. It says that it was performed for VIP Nation Ultimate VIP Package and Soundcheck Package ticket holders. I feel like it was probably just the backing band that would have played it, and not like it would have been Mike and
Right. Yeah.
them up there singing "Rain." But I don't know. Like I'm curious. But anyway. Let's see what else. There's a great anecdote in here about they were doing this thing during the tour where they had, aided by modern technology, they had Dennis and Carl singing.
Right.
And there were times where it
that's
wasn't
right.
working right. So I'm going to just read this this paragraph here. During the performance on May 8th, 2012 at the Beacon Theater, Dennis's vocals malfunctioned on Forever shortly after the song began. John Stamos, who sang a remake of the number on Summer in Paradise, came on stage with a white towel around his neck, furthering the appearance that he was caught by surprise, to perform impromptu lead vocals. Upon finishing, the crowd cheered approval, and many were heard screaming Uncle Jesse, referring to his days playing Jesse Katsopoulos on the 1980s sitcom Full House.
It's funny because there's one of the scenes in that first Beach Boys episode is him like running downstairs with I think a towel on because he was dyeing his hair or something like that because he was going gray.
He was going
getting
gray,
all worried.
exactly.
Then
Yeah.
he unhitched his zipline harness and off he went.
I just
The
like the
whole
idea
idea
that
of
he
a
was
malfunc-
backstage already.
He had just zip-lined in. The whole idea of a malfunctioning Dennis vocal just made me think of they need to do like an animatronic, like an animatronic Dennis that goes out there, and you know, because was it the Itchy and Scratchy Land episode of The Simpsons where they're like messing with the George Washington, or no, it was Duft Gardens.
Oh, yeah.
one. So they just got like an animatronic Dennis out there singing forever. That'd be great.
But the idea that Stamos comes out from backstage like in the middle of hair and makeup is like
He's wearing a towel. You'll have to speak up. I'm wearing a towel.
Was he otherwise involved in the show, or do they just have like
Just
he's on standby because he's literally the only other person in the world who can sing forever? Apparently,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. He has a contractual obligation to be around. Yeah.
Wow.
That was good. So yeah, all kinds of weird shit goes down with this tour. Mostly, and look, there's the cynic's view of this whole thing, that essentially this very much raises the profile of the Beach Boys, right? You've got Brian back, you've got a new album. They're selling out tours. They're debuting at number 3. They sell 20,000 copies of this album in an hour on QVC. And now, wouldn't you know it, over the course of this 50th anniversary tour, Mike goes and books a bunch of other shows for the Beach Boys, but it's not the Beach Boys with Brian Wilson and Brian Wilson's band and Al Jardine and David Marks. It's this
Mike and Bruce
touring,
show.
you know, Mike and Brian, or sorry,
Bruce.
Mike and Bruce
Yeah.
version of the Beach Boys that had been playing, you know, tiny little casinos and, you know, to zero fanfare at all. It's almost as if Mike was trying to capitalize on all of this newfound attention, because
No, he wouldn't do that.
there's all this apparently like posters that are going up of the new album and the reunited lineup to promote the shows that are just the Mike and Bruce Beach Boys version. There's now like a factions that are opening up within Brian's band as a result of this. So Brian's band is being splintered.
Interesting.
Because of all this stuff going on.
But the drama comes out in public when Mike puts out a press release specifically saying that the Beach Boys will continue touring without Brian and Al and anybody.
Yeah.
It's just going to be me and Bruce and our band.
Yeah.
But his claim is that the reason he put out that press release is because there was confusion, because some of the imagery of Brian was being used for promotion. And he basically said, like, the 50th anniversary tour had an expiration date. We knew that was a limited thing, and then we're just going to keep doing what we were doing. And so he comes out and says, oh, yeah, okay, so we're just going to keep doing this without all them. And everyone took that to mean he's firing Brian from the Beach Boys. And, like, I'm not taking Mike Love at his word necessarily, because the other, explanation is that he was capitalizing on Brian's image and the name of the band, and then he got caught and then put out the press release, obviously, like, kind of backpedaling or trying to cover his ass.
Oh, you know what? Sounds like it's time for an episode of Heroes and Villains.
What?
That's right. It's time for Heroes and Villains. We're discussing the heroes and the villains, whatever it is we happen to be talking about this week. And this week we're talking about That's Why God Made the Radio and the 2012 Beach Boys 50th anniversary reunion. Hero?
John Stamos' towel,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
saving the day.
Yeah.
That zip line brought him in just in the nick of time.
I wonder if he can zip line like
Oh,
with the towel.
That's probably what he does, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. He's even cooler than I thought.
Yeah. Any other heroes?
No.
Melinda Ledbetter.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Making the tour happen, maybe.
I guess. She was apparently part of the confusion, though. I mean, there's a lot of,
It's a lot of finger pointing.
There's a lot of
There was
camps,
a lot of,
like,
camps.
This person's camp and this person. Look, I know in our band we have camps too. Glenn's people have to talk to Tim's people. Tim's people have to talk to my people. I know that it can get complicated with all this interstitial squabbling. But figure it out, people. Communicate.
Right. Yeah,
Get coffee. Get your plans together. So, they needed to figure some of this shit out. I would nominate, if it existed as a hero, animatronic Dennis. But it doesn't exist yet.
You're the birthday
boy or girl.
Birthday boy or girl.
I mean, obviously, Brian. Brian's a hero.
Yeah, Brian.
Eternally.
Yep.
We love Brian.
Yeah.
All right, villains.
Gosh, I don't know.
This might be our first episode where there's not a villain. Yeah.
No
What a
villains.
weird.
Yeah.
There's
And everything's
circumstance.
harmonious, right?
Yeah.
They believed in harmony.
Everything's above
endless
board.
harmony. And Mike fucking
Mike
loves
Love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
He puts out this stupid backtrack shit. He acts like he
right.
didn't fire Brian and Al from the band.
Yeah.
And, David, whatever. But, yeah, fuck you, Mike. In his biography, allegedly, he has this whole big explanation for why this all went down this way. But we know you're bullshitting. He's back there, like, raking in the money from this tour. Like, they're selling shit out left and right. There's a album that comes, like, not just this album that we talked about, but there's like a tour CD that comes out. So he's making money off of that shit.
Yeah.
He's like, now it's like, I don't have to have kibbles and bits anymore. I'm like, I'm upgrading to Fancy Feast or Farmer's Dog or whatever.
Yeah, he's just trying to unleash the love.
Farmer's
is what
Dog,
he's
by the
doing.
way, don't buy Farmer's Dog. It makes dogs sick.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look it up. I have a coworker whose dog is like, he thought she was going to die.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like stomach digestive issues. I think that's the brand. Otherwise, I'm slandering some brand, but there's like a lot of people with similar experience.
We got to be careful here with this podcast. I don't want to get sued.
I know it's so popular.
I expect to get sued by Mike
the
Love.
the
but
farmer
not by
might come after us. The farmer himself,
or his dog.
Oh God, no, his dog's long dead.
Interesting, because Tom Ono and I, our good friend of the show, Tom, we were down here in this very studio mixing, and we were watching this TV up here.
Yeah,
this new TV mounted in the studio, and we had a baseball game on while we were doing some mixing, and one of those commercials came on, and Tom's like, "So, what do you feed Bowie, the official dog of the podcast?" It's like, "Not that stuff," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm just curious." He's like, those commercials seem like they're all kind of about guilt tripping in a way. And I was like, yeah, every time I see one of those commercials, I feel bad that I feed my dog, the dried kibble stuff.
Okay,
So.
I don't think I've seen any of their commercials.
Oh yeah, it's they're guilt trippy for sure.
Oh yeah, it is Farmer's Dog making dogs sick.
Okay,
Anyway.
well, Mike, I would like to suggest that maybe you try some Farmer's Dog.
Yeah.
We know you're into Alpo, but maybe give Farmer's Dog a chance. Switch it up.
I hear it's great.
Switch it up.
It's natural.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
I hear you're gonna love it. So yeah,
Good episode.
good episode.
Tour comes to an end.
Well, I was going to say real quick, just kind of tying into that episode we just had of Heroes and Villains, that Mike does blame Melinda at some point, right? He says that she emailed him saying, "No more shows for Wilson or with Wilson," and then emailed him back saying, "Just kidding," and he was like, "Too late." I don't know. Maybe that happened because there's a response from Brian to that press release where he talks about like the tour and like we thought we could continue on in this formation. We could have booked this and this and this giant venue. We had all these offers, and it's not possible for me to get fired, but I feel like I was fired because of this Mike shit. Brian doesn't mention Melinda. Who knows what's true? There's finger pointing, like I said. But yeah, Brian pretty much reinforces the idea that Mike's a dick and didn't really reach out and talk to the right people or do any of this thing, any of it properly. So yeah. So
Farmer's Dog, Mike.
Yes, this episode brought to you by Farmer's Dog.
Yeah. Not just for dogs anymore. Yeah. All right.
Farmer's Mike.
Anything else you have on the tour, Glenn?
No.
Did you see it? Were you there?
Well, I saw them perform the 50th anniversary of the Pet Sounds
Oh,
yeah,
right,
we
right.
saw Brian.
performance. We saw Brian performing.
Yeah, I didn't see that one, but we saw it was before that, right?
Yeah,
When we saw them,
just a regular Brian. Yeah,
but with the Smile Band, basically.
a lot of the same.
Yeah,
personnel,
and with Al
you know.
and Blondie. Yeah.
Yep. Blondie.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, let's take one last break. We'll come back to wrap it all up.
Yeah.
All right, we are back, putting a bow on episode 45. The last Beach Boys
45.
album.
That's not a cursed
That's
number at all.
Beach Boys.
Yeah,
album.
yeah, I didn't even think about that. All right, well, I don't know. We got no albums left. What are we gonna talk? I guess
What are we gonna do?
Next week we'll talk laundry detergents. Yeah, we'll rate those.
Okay. Do you think the Beach Boys use Tide? They have to use Tide.
Yeah, but not the Tide Pods. Those are confusing to
Yeah.
them. Yeah,
It's too.
and they look too delicious.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then we're going to be a Baywatch podcast.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, all of that is to come. But let's
And-
wrap it up. We've
and
already gone
true.
over our time.
Stay
so,
tuned.
Yeah, we'll catch y'all next week for who knows what.
Later.
Bye.